everyone. Our project was trying to determine if there was any correlation of increases or decreases in the U.S. inflation rate or exchange rates on its effect to gold commodity prices. I myself, Raymond Hanish, partnered up with Candace Hallowell for this final project. The goal of the project, in lieu of recent events with inflation in the past year increasing, was to try to see if there is any effect on inflation rate to gold prices and how inflation rate in the U.S. affects exchange rates and also its effect on gold prices. And we wanted to see if when the U.S. dollar becomes weaker, or if the price of everything goes up because of inflation, do people tend to look to purchase gold commodities, which always hold its value because there is a limited amount. So we were hoping to see if we could find some type of correlation, and if there was a correlation, could we predict the future prices of gold, which could be valuable for someone that may want to invest in it. Few target users for this project, more on the level of people who are in the gold industry, so miners, gold wholesalers, jewelry manufacturers, and then at the same time, it also could be for audience members that are consumers, people who purchase jewelry, and it's valuable to each and every one of them, because it will give them an idea on what they may or may not want to do if they are holding gold inventory or looking to purchase more or produce more with miners, and give them a better outlook of, okay, is it more valuable if I hold on to this for another year, or should I get rid of it now and then buy it again? So this is where we came up with who might be interested in this predictor model. What we did in order to get data and use it as a predictor model was first to find some online sources that gave us historical gold prices, inflation rates, and currency exchange rates, taking that data in Excel, doing data cleaning and organization so that it was easier to work with. Once we were able to get that organized, we checked correlation between gold price and inflation, and gold price and exchange rates. And ultimately, we found that there was really no correlation between exchange rate changes against the US dollar to gold prices, but there was a moderately strong correlation between inflation rate to gold price. So that kind of drove on what the predictor model would be based off of. We use Excel trend lines and power functions to figure out how we want to set up our predictor model. And then once we got that set up, we basically wrote a simple VBA user-friendly tab where you could input what date you would want to see the gold price, what year, and from there it kind of give you what the price of gold would be compared to what it is now. A few of the data sources that we needed, again, simply we just needed historical data on inflation rates, gold prices, and exchange rates. In addition to the inflation rate, we wanted to kind of see were there any major events during each year that may have caused the inflation rate to spike, either upwards or downwards, so it could kind of give us a better idea on outliers. So as I mentioned, we saw that there was a correlation between exchange rates and gold prices. So what we did was we graphed our historical inflation rate, and using trend lines in Excel, we wanted to basically figure out what future inflation rates would be. And the difficulty that we found was that, with each of the different trend lines, it resulted in significantly different future values. So we used power function in Excel to try out each of the different trend lines that Excel offers, whether it was logarithmic or power or linear, and we input the future year values to kind of see which one made more sense. And when we did a linear trendline function, it was sloping in the negative direction. So we know, okay, that doesn't really make much sense, because by the time it's 2050, we're continually, trending into the negative inflation rate every single year, where historically we've seen that inflation rate averages about 3% increase every single year. So we had to play around with the different trend lines to see, okay, if we're going to use this for a predictor model, which one makes most sense. Once we determined that, we also wanted to figure out what formula we're going to use so that once we get an inflation rate, it'll give us a gold price rate change. And so by doing this, by doing a scatter plot, we plotted the gold price rate change against the inflation rate change. We got this trend line. And originally when we did this, we only looked at inflation rate against gold price change. But since inflation rate historically increases about 3% every year, all we notice is that the gold price continues to increase. What we wanted to see is year by year, how much does that gold price change compared to how much the inflation rate changes. So we kind of looked at it more as a rate change instead of just a flat out price change. And this gave us a much better correlation value, as well as a better scatter plot to kind of see what our trend line, which it gave us a better trend line function to be able to use for the predictor model. And so basically using those two different trendline formulas, it kind of shows, what inflation rate would do in the next 30 years, as well what gold prices would do in the next 30 years.